Wow. Okay, we're going live for the first time. I've never done the YouTube live version, so we thought we'd give it a shot today. Hope everyone's having a great, happy Friday. It is a crazy week, a lot of good stuff. Talking to a lot of clients, talking to a lot of people. Business is booming. So today we're going to be talking about tech sales, career in cybersecurity revolving around sales. Excuse me. I definitely think this is something everybody should be looking at. And sorry, I getting over a cold, not COVID, but got a little sick earlier in the week. So kind of getting over that, having some nice bone broth. So talking about a career in tech sales. Excuse me. First and foremost, why a career in tech sales, how to get a career in tech sales, and the breakdown that I want to kind of like look at today, why, what other careers are going to be trending in the future, how to master a possible cybersecurity sales interview, certain sales techniques that we can talk about, and bonus kind of area, if you stay till the end, how to maximize your income in sales, right? Now, why a career in cybersecurity sales? If you look at kind of the trends that are going on, it's really important to always look at the trends. You know, excuse me. I know this is going to be a little bit gross, so sorry that's not on the video. Excuse me. Why a career in cybersecurity sales? So right now, there's a lot of industries that are beginning to progress forward, and there's an old saying that pioneering don't pay. If you look at the people that pioneered a certain industry, let's look at internet, for example. We all know Google Chrome, Safari, things like that. But does anybody remember Netscape? Netscape was like the pioneers, and they're out. It's usually the person that's second or third that really rides the wave of a trend and makes the most money. And it's the same in kind of certain trends you want to look at, and you can follow that same thing in stocks, for example. But in cybersecurity right now, you want to be looking at the industries that are growing, namely tech. I would say tech, education, infrastructure, and any type of automation services that are coming down the track. And looking at that, and I do believe that cybersecurity is one of those areas that is constantly growing at a really amazing, healthy rate. And excuse me, this came up. I've been getting a lot of emails, and I really appreciate everybody on this channel who's messaged me privately or has sent me an email. I love it. If you have questions, that's great. I can't answer all of them because I get like 500 emails a day. But if you ask certain things, I'd be happy to give you some more information on this. And somebody asked about how do I get into cybersecurity if I have no background? Well, if you have no background in IT or HR or engineering or anything like that, I would really recommend looking into sales. Why? You can earn as much as a cybersecurity engineer as you can as a sales professional. That's right. So if you're looking into cybersecurity for kind of the money reasons, you can actually make as much as a cybersecurity engineer if you're selling the services. You get a commission on the services. You can make, depending on the type of product or service. But if you're making like, a sale a month in some of those high volume areas, you'd make as much as an engineer. And despite everything going to automation mode in the next few years, sales is always going to be around, guys. Sales is the oldest profession, despite another profession that says they're the oldest, but sales is the oldest profession, and nothing would get done in our current society if sales wasn't the first and foremost. Everything in a company is there to support usually a sales network. Even if you were a sole business owner, if you were a brand new business, say if I had an accounting firm and I just started, you still have to sell to get new clients to just support yourself. So you have to have the accounting skills and the sales skills to do so. So, excuse me. It's very important to know how to do sales. I think that this is something in education that I don't know why, but they don't really teach it. And it comes from experience. And you don't need to be a pro, but you got to know the basics. You got to know the basics. To be a master, you must master the basics. Okay. So why a career in cybersecurity sales? If you're looking into cybersecurity, and if you're looking also to become an engineer in the future, it's also a great way to get into a company and start learning the lingo, start learning that industry, start learning the lay of the land. And that's a big part of the learning curve in any kind of company, where it takes about 3 to 6 months of you learning industry jargon, speaking the same vocabulary, speaking the same knowing how the industry works, all those things. And knowing about sales will give you huge legs up because you're going to improve your communication skills. You're going to improve personal interaction skills, social skills, the soft skill sets. And if you decide to go the engineering road, you'll learn the hard skill sets. Very, very key. I actually had one person, funny enough, in a company who offered to have me learn everything about becoming a cybersecurity engineer. And I turned it down. I just felt like, I could go down that road. I don't think it's my strongest suit. Personally, I think I'm a much better, I like people, I like interaction. So that was the reason why. But if you want to, it's possible. If you do really good at sales in a cybersecurity company, they're going to ask you to go into their engineering department, because if you could do both, oh, you'll be a rock star. Anyway, excuse me. Looking at what other careers will be trending in the future, there are a lot of things that are coming down the track with automation. And a lot of people think that, what's going to happen. And if anybody's familiar with Moore's Law is something you learn in undergrad or business school, where technology always doubles on an average of 18 months to 2 years. It either doubles in the amount of speed or capacity, or it does it in half the time. So for example, imagine when the first iPhone came out versus the iPhone 13 or whatever we're on right now, and how quick it is, how the camera works, how the capacity changed, right? The video capabilities, all those things. And that's only in the last, I don't know, what is it, 10, 15 years on how fast that goes up. And it happens across the board. So cybersecurity, if you're going into that, by the time you get into it, it's going to take you an average of 2 to 5 years to really become a professional. It's going to be completely different than when you're going in. So you have to be learning what's in the past, but also what's going to be trending in the future. Okay. And automation is really key. I mean, look at all the things that are happening with automation right now. It's HR is getting automated. I've seen that in my own thing with recruiting. Manual labor. Tesla just came out with a new bot that they're planning on doing. And that's going to be automating a lot of manual labor. And a lot of people think that that's not going to happen. It's going to happen. If your profession right now is replicatable, there will be automation following suit in the next few years. So something to consider. The way to kind of counterbalance that, I would always say, look at sales. Look at sales, because that's a big foundation of any business, of any type of communication, soft skills. There's always going to be a need. You can always fall back on that. And if you do it, it's going to enhance your success in any job, in any company, in just life. So always try to learn at least the basics of sales approach. All right. By the way, if you're looking for a sales role, I'm hiring. We have open sales roles at my company. Feel free to look in the description for my email. Send me an email and send me your resume, because we're looking for some. Okay. Talking about doing a cybersecurity sales interview, like what to say, what not to say, key questions to ask. Well, first and foremost, you want to do your research on the company. Make sure you talk about your own vision of where you want to be and try to incorporate the company's vision. If you know what their values are, what their mission is, and you can see if you can really talk about their products already, you're kind of selling them in the own interview. I mean, the interview really is you selling yourself to the company. The salary is the price, right? That's number one, which is why it's good to get good at interviews. And if you really want to get good at interviews, again, send me a link. I do on more of a side hustle kind of thing. We do mock interviews for people. So if you need help with that, let me know. But do your research on the company. Know all about it as much, their product offerings, services, mission, core values. And you really want to have stories lined up. Facts tell, stories sell, right? When they ask you certain questions, talking about certain stories that incorporate the mission and the core values that elicit those. You want to be able to talk about how a sales funnel works. Okay. I talked to an individual who was trying to get a tech sales job. He had done no sales before, but we talked about, know the sales funnel. And you guys can Google this. What is a sales funnel, right? There's certain components from start to finish. starting from like lead generation, pre-qualifying, sharing the product or service, overcoming objections, following up, following through, as well as expanding your book of business. And knowing those basics before you go into an interview is very key. And you can still give examples from your life in any type of thing where you had to persuade somebody in your business. If you're working on a team, you still had to persuade people on your team. If you worked, even if you're like a new student and you were on a sports team, there's some selling that goes involved. Or like, let's, we're going to beat the other team using this method. Even if it was like, I don't know, selling magazines like I did in middle school. There's still some things that you can talk about this. You're familiar with kind of like the basics of selling, right? And a big part of that is the sales funnel. Knowing that beforehand, if you can give some story behind that where you talk about, hey, here's a situation where I actually use a sales funnel or sales components in that. And here's how I basically started, how I gained their interest, and how I closed them, right? They're not looking for people who are huge sales professionals all the time. Sometimes they're looking for somebody who's really teachable, coachable, and who knows the basics. And by the way, I should mention cybersecurity, a lot of these cybersecurity engineer salaries, cybersecurity tech sales salaries at the beginning are like 80K. That's awesome. That's a lot better than kind of the average right now. And if you add commission on top of that, you can earn as much as a cybersecurity engineer. If it's price points around $200, $300 for a product of cybersecurity, you're making a sale a week, do very well. If it's something higher price point around $5,000, you're making a sale a month. Yeah, you can make as much. If you have questions, feel free to email me. But some key questions that you want to ask them, and that's really the big point, is at the end of the interview, you want to do little things that make you separate from all the other people that are trying to interview for the same job. An average job gets about 200 to 300 applications. So you think about that. You have to stand out. How do you stand out? There's little things you can do, telling certain stories, letting them know that you know the basics of selling, letting them know you know the sales funnel, right? I would also mention about, hey, I'm very teachable. I want to learn this. I'm eager to learn this. And as well as talk about maybe certain books, courses, or audios that you've listened to that have already sharpened your sales skills. Okay. That's really key because that's let them know that, like, hey, this guy's willing to do outside homework. He's not just going to get paid for when he's on the job, but he's going to do his outside research, right, on sales as well as the company. That's going to set you apart hugely. Funny enough, I actually have a few books right on my tabletop. I didn't plan this, but this is one of my favorite books of all time. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This is probably the book that started me on the journey of like just self-development in general. And I was lucky enough to read it in my senior year of college. Won't age myself now, but I always go back to it once a year. Great book. I think that was like the first book, and then it's been like an avalanche of books, courses, and everything. I will probably link to a few of the courses that I have really used. One is Your Wish is Your Command. That's a 14 audio one that that teaches you how to make more money. That really changed my life. I listened to that when I was studying abroad, funny enough. Anyway, next thing. At the end of the interview, you want to ask key questions to the interviewer. This is really how you separate yourself, big time. A lot of people say like, no, you answered all my questions. No, I don't have any other questions. Ask questions. Ask questions. It's going to make you stand out. Even if they're not like, the best questions, still ask certain questions. Here's some questions that I would really recommend asking. Number 1, what does a successful salesperson look like in their organization? That's really key. There's a big difference between somebody who's trailblazing a new department, say you're the only salesperson, versus a company that has already a team of 5. It's a lot harder if you're the only person. And to do your research, I would really ask the company, what does a successful salesperson look like in this company, right? What is their imagination? I would ask also, number 2, what does the top earner make? How long did it take them? Okay. Because they're going to always give you a general range of here's our base plus commission. Here's the range that you can make. Great. I want to know, is anybody actually making that? So what is this? I'm messing up this word today. What does a successful salesperson look like? What does the top earner make? How long did it take them? What does the average person make? How long did it take them? What did they have to do? Right? And I guess a good fourth one, is there any cold sourcing involved, or how do they get their leads? That's a big thing. 90% of kind of sales, in just the general sense and like a job, is lead generation. I would say that's a majority of what your time is doing. So I want to know, are they doing cold sourcing or are they doing warm leads? And if you don't know the difference, warm leads are people that are already kind of coming in. They're already showing interest in the product or the service. They're like calling the firm directly, asking to talk to a salesperson. Cold is you're going after them. You're giving, like, you ever heard of cold calling? You're calling them up. They have no idea you're about to call, and you're kind of telling them about like their product or service. And the big difference there is the ratio of probable closes, of the amount of people you're probably going to have close on a sale. If it's a warm lead, it's probably going to be 1 out of 10. If it's a cold lead, it's probably going to be 1 out of 50. So big difference there. So when you're asking these key questions, I want to know, because I want to know actually how much time it's probably going to take me to close a sale. So some things to keep in the back of the mind. All right, so this is gonna be a long video today. This is the problem. See, I did like a live video because I didn't know. I usually kind of do a little bit of a rehearsal in my mind before I do these, and I'm like, oh, let's just go for it. So you're seeing everything from me coughing a little bit, getting over a cold, versus just rambling sometimes, because I love to talk about this type of stuff. I'm into sales and marketing and recruiting, career development. So I could talk about this stuff all day, but we'll keep it low. All right, sales techniques. What sales techniques? We want to talk about how do you start a conversation? How do you share the product or service? How do you close? Which is, I think, the biggest part that everybody always has questions of is, how do you close? I can start a conversation. How do I close a sale? And that's where the rubber meets the road. So let's talk about that. Building rapport, it should be your starting place. You really, when you're doing a first kind of sale, say like somebody calls me, I call them. My first thing should not be to talk about pricing or talk about kind of like the wonders of the product. Your first thing should be getting to know the person. Get to know them as an individual. Put sales in the back of the mindset. Talk to them a little bit about, what are the things that you guys have in common? Let them know, like, ask about what their needs are. If it's a warm lead, when they're calling up, great. I'd love to hear a little bit more about your business, what you're looking for. What are the things that you think, how we can help? And that's why it's like asking certain questions. You should be 80-20, 80% asking questions, right? And 20% actually talking about the product or your benefits. So you're asking a lot more questions around that. And at the beginning, it's really about building rapport. That's the main focus. During the conversation, there's going to be coming a point where then it's your turn to speak. Okay? Get to know them first, establish a relationship, establish a friendship. There's a lot of clients that I have that, it's because we've been friends. And that's kind of all you need. And it's not just the one-time sale. It's a sale that keeps going down the road because they trust kind of the product, services, or things that I do. And I also don't think of them as clients that way. It's a professional relationship, but it also is like, this is somebody I can talk, and we talk about our business, but we also talk about just other things going on in our lives. It's a good relationship that way. And you want that same thing. It's not looking at a short-term relationship. Look at a long-term relationship. Every new customer should be thought of as a long-term relationship, a potential long-term relationship. You're asking questions, you're building rapport at the beginning. Now, we talked a little bit in the beginning, if you missed it, there's a good quote called facts tell, stories sell. And this is a way of, whenever you're giving your product or service in cybersecurity, for example, now it's time for your pitch, right? You got to pitch the product. And when you're pitching the product, you want to give certain statistics. And you give certain statistics that are similar to the product or the industry, those are the facts. Here's the facts that we're seeing. So, and then when you have a story, it can be your own story, or it could be another customer story. Okay. If you guys haven't seen this, is your first time seeing this, I do recommend the software TechnoTutor. I am a distributor for TechnoTutor, and I decided to become a distributor for TechnoTutor. And this is what I would say. So when I'm giving an example in a real life scenario, here's a facts tell stories tell. Man, I'm messing up words. Facts tell stories tell scenario. Did you know that the Fortune 500 CEOs all read at an average reading level of 600 or higher? That's a true thing. If you look at the average person in America, the average person's reading speed and amount of vocabulary is less than 100. It's less than a sixth grade reading level, which is pretty crazy. That would be showing the facts. If you look at the stories, though, people that use TechnoTutor, right? We have one guy, he went from I think it was something crazy, 3K a month to 10K a month because he was able to increase his vocabulary and his processing speed through TechnoTutor. I myself have been able to double my income. This is true. Double my income the last year just by changing my routine by using TechnoTutor. We had another person who 5 years ago, she's been using it for 5 years. And by the way, this was a person that was a friend of mine, and she we met in Cancun, I think. Yeah. And she was the one who first told me about it. I did it, and I didn't use it until the last 2 years. But she started using TechnoTutor 5 years ago. We lost touch. We got back in touch about 3 months ago, and we were catching up. How's life? How's everything? She went from, something crazy. She now owns her own multi-million-dollar canine business, canine training business. You ever seen The Dog Whisperer? It's kind of like that. And so those are some effects. If I was going to sell somebody on TechnoTutor, I would tell them about the facts. I'd also tell them about my success or other people's success. So that's an example of that. By the way, if you want to learn about what I'm talking about, look at the description. I will let you know everything about it. It is a product I wholly endorse. What it does is it actually gets rid of the self-sabotaging habits that you have and increases the positive habits, which increases your income, which increases your health, which increases your relationships. I would definitely recommend it for sales as well. Anyway, so going back to sales techniques, man, this is gonna be a long video today. Going back to sales techniques, we got talking about building rapport, asking questions, using facts, using stories. Now we're gonna talk about closing techniques. What are some good closing techniques? If you've never done it, so 2 easy closes. There's what I call the A or B close. So have you ever been to a car dealership? They always talk to you about oh, which one do you like better? Do you like the Lincoln or the Ford? The Lincoln or the Ford? So that's a close that you can use at the end when somebody has shown interest and they're trying to make a decision. Instead of giving them a yes or no option, oh, do you like this? And they say yes or no. Instead, you can say, oh, do you like this or this? And it allows them to kind of think about pros and cons of each one instead of just yes or no. If somebody says a no, it's really tough to get over that. Excuse me. Not impossible, but it's a little bit more difficult. So that's kind of an A or B close. Another one, which is one of my favorites, is called the ascending close. Okay, ascending close this is very popular in How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's another great book, but you are basically leading them down the track to say yes, right? Let's say use a car again. Oh, do you are you looking for a hatchback? Yes. Are you looking for a green color? Yes. Do you think that this would be the best thing for you? Yes. You're leading them down a track of questioning that's more in the affirmative. Okay, that's why it's called the ascending close. Another word for it is yes, yes, and yes. Asking 3 questions that would get to a yes. So I'm sure if you're watching this, you might have had that happen to you. And whenever you're buying something, you could have gone to Best Buy and you're trying to buy a new computer or a new TV. They're definitely going to use that. And it's not bad as long as it's a great product and a great service. But these are great little techniques that you can use to increase your ratio and just get you more income. Okay. So I hope that was very, very helpful. I know I threw a lot in there, and I was a little bit, I might have gone off tangent a little bit, but all of that was was good things that I really recommend. We talked about why a career in cybersecurity sales, things that are going to be trending in the future, how to do a sales interview, some sales techniques. Okay, so let's talk about kind of the bonus section on some ways to maximize your income in sales. Okay. And by the way, I got a whole notebook that I've been keeping for the last 5 years on sales information, recommendations. Message me if you want some more info. But let's see. One thing that I would recommend if you've never done sales ever, and if you have no idea where to start, and you're thinking of maybe getting into it, I would really recommend. We are partnering with a company called Uvaro, which does work placement, and they do a 12-week. It's completely free, which is pretty phenomenal. Completely free, 12-week course. It's part-time. You can do it on your own time. It's 100% online. And what they do is they actually, after the 12 weeks, they partner with other tech companies. And the average, I think, salary is starting salary is $80,000. That's a home run. So to me, that's a pretty amazing internship program that you can do part-time, and you learn the basics of selling, and then you automatically get a job offer. Definitely look in our description below. You can see the link. Click on that link to go right to it, and you can sign up pretty easily. And I think the next the next training starts in 2 weeks. So check that out. I obviously already mentioned networking. Your network is your net worth. And some of the best opportunities I've ever gotten is because of networking. And the two biggest networks that I definitely recommend, number one, the Self-Perfected Hangout. Message me. It's a private group. We do it every Friday. Actually, the next one's in an hour. And we challenge each other to do self-improvement. And you want somebody that's going to hold you accountable. The other one is Global Information Network, which I highly recommend. That'll teach you basics of finance, memory, everything that you need to be successful in any area. It teaches everything from law of attraction to financial stock skills. It's pretty awesome. Definitely check that out as well. Third one that I already mentioned earlier in the video, TechnoTutor. TechnoTutor has been the biggest game changer personally in my life. I've done self-development ever since this guy, 7 Habits. That was the initial one. I also got another one, 4-Hour Workweek. That's a really great book. I read this at least once a year too. 4-Hour Workweek. I don't know if anybody actually can do the 4-hour workweek. There's a few people I know, but not the average person. But I remember there's a lot of great techniques in there that I still use today. But TechnoTutor is one that it's a software that you put on your laptop. Everybody who I've talked to who does this consistently over a 3 to 6 month time sees amazing results in their life, including myself. It gets rid of your negative programming, self-sabotaging, limiting beliefs, and especially around money, which is very key. I was a whitewater rafting guide, and now I'm doing a lot of cool business stuff. I'm not nothing big, but way better than it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And I've seen that ascending. So I would definitely recommend checking that out. If you want to know more about it, send me an email. Okay. I'm getting a lot of emails. I don't have time to answer every single one. I'll do my best. But if you want to learn about that, I don't mind talking about it. It's a huge game changer, and you're missing out if you're not using it. It's going to remove a lot of the negative blocks you have, and it's going to increase your positive habits. And trust me, you'll never be the same. I guarantee it. Anyway, guys, sorry if my voice is a little raspy today, obviously fighting a cold. But it's been a hell of a good week. I actually did my triathlon. Yes, by the way. Triathlon was done last weekend. Did the Zuma Beach Malibu triathlon. Did really well. 4 a.m. So pretty fun. Anyway, feel free to drop me a line. I really appreciate it. There's been a lot of our subscribers have messaged me privately, sent me emails. Love it. Love to hear your feedback. Love to hear if you have any questions about anything. And if you need help. And by the way, I have a lot of tools that have helped me, and I'm happy to share them. So feel free to drop me a line anytime, okay? Cheers, guys. I will sign off. Take care.